Hello and welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. We invite you to our website at ebiblefellowship.org for additional Bible studies. And now with his study in the book of Romans, here's Chris McCann.
Good evening and welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's Bible study in the book of Romans. Tonight is study number 26 in Romans chapter 3, and we're going to begin reading in verse 13. Their throat is an open sepulchre, with their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace have they not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Well, we're continuing with this heavy insight from God who knows man better than man knows himself. As he searches the hearts, he knows the desperate wickedness, the deceitfulness of the heart of man, of the sinful nature of the sinner, better than anyone, of course. And so in this passage, it's really emphasizing, highlighting, again and again. It's very hard to take, isn't it? And we believe we have been saved and God has spared us from this. But imagine you're in your sins, and this is the Word of God according to your present spiritual condition, and further, we know we're at a time where that condition cannot change. Oh, it would be terrifying to read, to look at the Bible and to look in depth into these things. It is really like looking into a mirror of the soul. Someone somewhere coined that phrase, that the Bible is a mirror of the soul. It reflects the soul condition as we read it. It comes before our eyes, and like the mirror on the wall shows us our physical condition. If we went to a mirror, maybe only one mirror, all other mirrors, they lied to us and they flattered us and they gave us a good report of our physical condition. But this one mirror gave us a very accurate, unflattering, honest appraisal of what we truly look like. And it turns out all the other mirrors were manipulated in this scenario. They're manipulated to flatter us. But this one mirror is unmanipulated. It is the truth, a true reflection. And so we come before it and we see the ugliest image of ourself physically. And we've never seen it before. All these other mirrors, they lied to us our whole lives. And people went along with these lies, and they also spoke kind words to us, and oh, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome and gorgeous, and all these wonderful things they said. But this mirror is showing us the truth, and we would flee in horror. We would run from that mirror, get away from it. I don't want to see myself. I want to go back to these other thousands of mirrors that are everywhere else. I don't care if they lie to me. At least I see myself as lovely. I see myself as beautiful in that reflection. but this one mirror, I never want to see it again. And you see, that's why people run from the Bible. They run from the light that shines into the darkness of their heart. They live in the world that lies to them constantly, that tells them, oh, you're such a nice guy. You're such a good man. You're such a good woman. You're so kind. You're so this. You're so that. And the world that tells them all manner of things that are deceitful and dishonest and false. And yet it's pleasing to the ear. Pleasing to the ear to be a good person. That's what everyone strives for, really, except for maybe a few who have gone beyond that. But for the most part, people strive to be a good person, and then when you come to the Bible, you see that you are bad, you are wicked, you are evil, you are a transgressor, a lawbreaker. And they say the Eskimos have, I don't know how many words, dozens of words for snow, because they experience snow so much in their life. And so too, the Bible has many, many words to describe man's sin, because there's so much of man's sin in this world. So God is bringing a lot of those words together in this passage. In Romans 3, verse 13, their throat is an open sepulcher. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asp is under their lips. There's a consistent theme with each of these statements, these three statements in verse 13. The throat, the tongue, and the lips all identify with speaking. They all have to do with what comes out of the mouth of man, his words. And God has been watching, and God has taken note, and this is his analysis concerning people of the world, and you and I, in time past, prior to salvation, and maybe even occasionally afterward, if we have sinned in this way, our throat is an open sepulcher. And a sepulcher is a tomb. It's translated as tomb once. Actually, we find the word sepulcher here as sepulcher and once as tomb in Matthew chapter 23. Matthew 23, starting in verse 27, it says, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. This is the Lord Jesus rebuking the leaders of Israel, the scribes and Pharisees. Hypocrites, for ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead man's bones, and of all uncleanness. Even so, ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs, and that's the same word as sepulchres. You build the tombs of the prophets, and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, If we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore, ye be witnesses unto yourselves, they are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are like unto whited sepulchres. A whited sepulcher, and if you've ever walked through the cemetery, you see some beautiful graves and tombs, sepulchers that people have designed and built for their family. Just beautiful. And a new one would be very shiny and white, and It's a beautiful thing. But inside, within, there's dead man's bones and all manner of uncleanness. And that is what the Lord is saying concerning the scribes and Pharisees themselves. He's putting the finger on the problem of man, sinful man, who can give an outward appearance of righteousness, of being a just person or of being a good person, but within, where God looks in the spirit, because God is a spirit, there it is an ugly sight, as I was mentioning earlier. It's like dead man's bones and all manner of uncleanness. Well, we also read in Psalm 5 a similar statement regarding their throat is as a sepulcher. And in Psalm 5, verse 9, it says, "For there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness." That relates to what we read in Matthew 23. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. Speaking of the unsaved, and of course, the next verse tells us their end. "Destroy thou them, O God, let them fall by their own counsels. Cast them out in the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against thee." Man will be destroyed. Well, we also find in Romans 3:13 that the tongue is tied to deceit. And let me turn back there. And it says, with their tongues, they have used deceit. And of course, it's a certainty that would happen because God tells us of the heart of men. The heart of man is desperately wicked, according to what we read in Jeremiah 17, verse 9. It is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. And so it will come out of the mouth. That deceitful nature will reveal itself through the mouth. It is the reason that people are so quick to lie. And anyone who's had children, when the little child, the beautiful, supposedly innocent little child, as soon as they're old enough to talk, and maybe there's another brother or sister a little older, and let's say the toddler who's just starting to talk, he knocks something over, a nice vase, and it falls on the floor and breaks, and mother comes in and says, "What happened? Who did that?" And if he doesn't point the finger, the little boy will say, "Tony did it, Tony," and he is pointing to his brother, but he's lying. He's lying. It's deceitfulness. It's coming to him most naturally. Most naturally, it comes to us to lie. It is what we do because it is in our heart to do it. That is, prior to salvation, we are of our father, the devil, who is a liar from the beginning and the father of it. We're children of the wicked one. And so there is deceitfulness in our tongue. Psalm 52, and I'll read starting in verse 2. "Thy tongue deviseth mischiefs," and we don't have to wonder who's in view, it's just man in general. "Thy tongue deviseth mischiefs like a sharp razor, working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness." Selah. Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. God shall likewise destroy thee forever. Now notice again, after telling us these things, the next thing we read is God and his plan to destroy them. And that is God's judgment upon those who have sinned against him. And so the tongue of men loves devouring words, all devouring words, and that would be destroying words, because lies destroy. When it comes to gospels, when it comes to many things, the lie is destructive. It is the truth that builds and provides salvation. Now, another passage in the Psalms, in Psalm 140, we read in verses 1 through 3, Deliver me, O Jehovah, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Selah. Sharpen their tongues like a serpent, and adder's poison is under their lips, which actually brings us back to Romans 3. And the next thing that God says at the end of verse 13, the poison of asp is under their lips. So, first of all, the throat is like an open sepulcher, an open grave, because of the dead nature of the heart and that which flows forth. And their tongues have used deceit, so it's all manner of lies that are coming out through the use of their tongue. And now the poison of asp is under their lips. And we read in James, and this is what I was thinking about going to earlier, but we'll go there now in James chapter 3, James 3, where the Lord speaks of man's tongue. And after reading those other scriptures, we can see why God is emphasizing it. In James 3, he says in verse 3, Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beasts, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea, is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. The tongue is full of deadly poison. The poison of asp is under their tongue. No man can tame it, because the problem lies beneath it in the heart. And if the heart is wicked, the tongue will speak deceitfully. Maybe someone can act, put on a show for a little bit, but even the act would be deceitful, wouldn't it? And so the things they're saying are not true of themselves anyway. And it's just a extremely sad description of the sinner and his words, his mouth, the things that he says and speaks of. Now, one last thing concerning this poison of asp that is tied to the tongue, and as we read in James 3:8, that the tongue is this unruly evil full of deadly poison. A couple of things, then we'll close. One in Deuteronomy 32, starting in verse 30, it says there, how should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and Jehovah had shut them up? For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. And here God is speaking of Israel that he has delivered up to the enemy because of their unfaithfulness, and he is using the enemy to bring judgment upon them. And so when he says their vine is the vine of Sodom, it has to do with their church, their gospel, as Israel is a type and figure of the church, is as Sodom and Gomorrah, and their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter, and if you take these kind of grapes and you make your wine from them, then your wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. So we can see that this reference to the asp and its cruel venom, which would be a deadly poison, has to do especially with false gospels, with those that identify with God. They would call themselves Christian, and yet the things they teach are error. And especially at this time, they are strong error, strong delusion, as it's put in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. These teachings of the pastors and the theologians of the church and of those that identify with the churches, especially at the time of the end when God has given them up, it is a wine that is as poison. It is poisonous, and that leads us over to Mark 16, and we'll close with this. A little bit of good news in, so many scriptures that were telling us very severe things. In Mark 16, verses 17 and 18, we read there, and these signs shall follow them that believe. And here the reference to believe has to do with true belief of the heart, that only those that have become saved can believe from the heart. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. The deadly poison of false gospels will not hurt them. It would also apply to any falsehood, any other religious falsehood from other religions, or secular falsehoods that people are hearing. God's great multitude are out, many of them out there in the world. They're not under the hearing of the false gospels of the church, but they are under the hearing of the false teachings of the world in their fields of science and so forth. And no matter what shape or form the lie takes, whether it's religious, whether it's particular or said to be Christian, or whether it's secular, it doesn't matter, because God's people will not be hurt ultimately by any deadly thing, by any poison that comes forth from the tongue of man that is like a poison of an asp.
You've been listening to E-Bible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. Visit our website at ebiblefellowship.org for additional studies. Until next time, may the Lord's perfect will be done.